Becoming a mother without my mom has been one of the most challenging experiences of my life. Graduating from college and getting married were so hard, but it turns out having kids was the next level. My mom passed away when I was 19 years old from cancer. Actually, I was 19 and a half years old. And I only add that detail because my mom was the queen of half birthdays. She celebrated each and every one I had with her in style. And as her only child, I was her full attention. She would have loved to see Obama inaugurated, but that was the day that she died. She had been in the hospital for about a month due to complications she had had a few months before. I was a sophomore at UCLA, studying anthropology and hoping to become a teacher, the same path that she had taken. I had been home visiting her the weekend before and had just returned back to school. I woke up and I went for a run, the same thing I did almost every day. But this time, it felt different. As I was running, I had visions of myself, curled up in her soft lap as a child. And I thought about the unwavering support that she had always been. And then I got back to my dorm room, and I had a missed call from my dad. And I just knew. I knew that she was gone. My maternal grandmother died the year before I was born. So losing my mom so young felt like a family legacy. It set in place this sense in me of getting through all the things life had to offer as quickly as possible. I had to graduate from college, find a job, get married, buy a house, have kids. Like a checklist of all the things I didn't want to miss out on. Fast forward 6 years. I didn't have my mom, but I had made such a special nest for myself where I felt loved and supported. When Jay and I got pregnant with Wiley, we were living in this tiny little mountain town in Southern California called Mount Walby. We had met there teaching at the school with 110 students, grades K through 8. And it really felt like our forever home. Jay was the best husband who not only cooked dinner nightly, but then did the dishes, all with a good spirit. We had a community of friends. 7 other families in this tiny little village were all going to welcome babies within 3 months of us. We had our fairy tale house, and we loved our village. Thankfully, our pregnancy went pretty smoothly. I had morning sickness until about 15 weeks, but I still made it out the door every day until 25 weeks to go running. And we were so excited to meet this little baby. Now, we joked that in typical Italian fashion, he'd be late, very late. We did everything we could to try to get labor to happen naturally, but it didn't. And I knew that if my mom had been there, she would have made me peanut butter balls, my favorite snack, and gone on walks with me to help pass the time. 2 full weeks past my due date, we got induced, which went smoothly, and Wiley was born. And I began this journey into motherhood without my mother's strength. No wisdom, no sharing of advice, and no tears of happiness over any of his milestones. Those next few months are a complete blur, and when I look back at pictures of that time, I feel like I'm looking at somebody else's life. Right off the bat, we had struggles with breastfeeding, and Wiley wasn't gaining any weight. We weren't sure whether or not his lip and tongue ties were a part of this situation, or whether or not to get them revised. I know my mom would have sat with me on the couch, holding Wiley, and helped talk us through that decision. We did do the procedure, and it was like flipping a switch. 2 days later, it was the first time I was able to nurse Wiley and then sit down and eat dinner, while he happily cooed in his bouncer. I was so grateful that my aunt was there because Jay was traveling for work. But my deepest wish was that I wanted my mom there. My first Mother's Day as a mother, I honestly dreaded that holiday. I had hopes that maybe it would be more loving than the past 6 had felt. But I really didn't know where I fit in with this whole motherless mother piece. Oh, And I didn't mention, I was adopted at birth. So when I was 18, I started this relationship with both of my birth parents. And in Wiley's first month of life, my birth mother came to visit. And although this was great, it added a dynamic of complication. Yes, biologically, she had the same relationship to him as my husband's mom. But there was no rule book for what this should look like. And it tore me up to know that Wiley would never know my mother, the woman who raised me. And ironically, I needed my mom to help me process this whole mom situation. When Wiley was 3 months old, we got news that changed the trajectory of our lives. Jay's dad had a brain tumor, and he needed to be airlifted to Seattle for emergency surgery. We also flew there immediately. There was something so peaceful about seeing our usually wiggly Wiley curled up on Pop's chest before he went to the OR for surgery. Surgery went well. Recovery was a process, and our lives were all about to change. It was a summer of hectic travel. Mount Baldy to Seattle, back to Baldy, to Bozeman, back to Baldy. But at the end of it, we decided to move to Bozeman to be with Jay's family. It's true, my mom and I would never have that time with her grandson. But Jay's dad was still here, and I wanted Jay, Wiley, and Pop to experience time with the 3 generations together, our unity being a powerful gift to everyone. I couldn't have that, but they could. We found teaching jobs, arranged childcare for Wiley, and drove to Bozeman with our cat and my dad riding shotgun. It was isolating and scary to be here given the circumstances we were faced with Jay's dad. Initially, the only support I had was Jay's family and friends. But what I so desperately longed for was my support, my mom. She would have been a pillar of strength during this chaotic time. We got through the school year, secured jobs for the fall, started working with therapists in town, and started to talk about having a second baby. I started to make some key relationships with others in Bozeman, and all in all, we were feeling more settled. Almost exactly a year after moving to Bozeman, we found out that I was pregnant again. It was such an exciting and emotional time. Given the circumstances we were faced with Jay's dad and treatment for terminal cancer, while also a baby was growing. Shortly before Christmas, Jay's dad needed a second surgery in Seattle. And right after that, at one of my doctor's appointments, I was warned of the effects of stress on preterm labor. To say I was stressed was a huge understatement. I was teaching a class of 3rd graders. I had a 1.5-year-old, and we were on pins and needles about the day-to-day with Jay's dad. Stress was extremely high, and there was little time for any form of self-care. So hearing this reminder did nothing but further stress me out. 5 weeks before Brooks was born, Pop passed away. It was a surreal experience to lose someone so important to our family and at the same time be getting ready for this new baby to come. And now that same experience that had happened to me of bringing Wiley home without my mom would happen to my husband as we brought Brooks home without Pop. But this time we knew exactly what we were missing. We were missing Pop singing out of tune to baby Brooks. We were missing the shared tummy time moments as Pop did his back exercises on the floor with the new baby. And we were all missing the love of Pop. Every day, I think about the relationship that my mom would have had with our 2 boys. She would have been the grandmother to send holiday, half birthday, and just because packages in between her frequent visits. She would have been the grandmother to make little boats out of wine corks and toothpicks to sail down the road on a rainy day, and then taking the kids inside to bake cookies. I've gotten a tiny glimpse into this reality over the past couple of years as my mom's two best friends have come to visit us. They're the closest women to my mom that I'll get to experience now. They knew her well, loved her wholly, and shared years of experiences with her. I've seen the glimmer in my kids' eyes shine as they've gotten to know these women, and I'm so grateful for them and my aunt for being stand-ins. Life for us looks so very different than it did almost 4 years ago when Wiley was born. It feels like an eternity ago that we were living in Mount Baldy. Thankfully, we've found our ground, and we've been navigating living in town with extended family. A dynamic that's, well, dynamic. Those few relationships that I started to build our first year here have continued to grow, and they've helped us to transform Bozeman from Jay's hometown into our family's hometown. I still wish that my mom were here for the adventure. Not having a direct line to her heart has been such a lonely part of this journey into motherhood. And yet, I've found countless ways to connect with other women, to connect with other mothers. A wise woman shared with me, we get to have as many mothers as we need. So now, I find them everywhere.